Yeah. There's no one to account for. Highest chain. So the saddest thing is that the continent is the one that moves you. You know what I mean? It's not isolated to
Hello. Hi guys. Sorry, Kuda and Jesse were still like deep in conversation, talking about some very how can I put it? Controversial topics. Getting into politics so early on a Wednesday morning. But thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Leandra Boysons. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I am the host of the Whensday Warm-Up, powered by the Insight Show. Kuda, we need to get that thing, man. You know that?
the horn.
And then we need to get that things going on here in the studio. But anyway, before I introduce my amazing guest, I just want to introduce you to my co-host, none other than Jezzo, the main man. Jezzo, how you doing, brah?
I'm good, man. Getting ready for the winter. You see the yes duck.
Yeah, no. we have to keep ourselves warm some way or the other.
No, right?
Some guys are going for thick girls. Other guys are just covering
growing
their
afros.
hair.
Hibernating season.
One thing about I can say about this time of the year for me, we get chucked to the side as skinny girls with skinny girl problems. We are just thrown out the window like, we don't see you, we don't need you, goodbye, forever alone. We will wait for summer. And then we basically hibernate.
Springtime is where you get the
springtime is for us, Then I will come out strong, summer body is made in winter.
Exactly.
So it helps me to concentrate on my summer body.
We all have our seasons,
We all have our seasons.
Spring it's again. Hailey, long time no chat.
Looking good. Now I'm looking good. But anyway, you guys heard him. He is full of energy, full of life. He is none other than Kuda. Kuda, I want to try to pronounce your surname right. Ngulube.
Very good.
Ngulube.
Very good.
But like when you say it fast, is it
Ngulube?
Ngulube. Okay, no, then I am up
good.
there.
Ngulube.
Thank you. So Kuda, who is Kuda for those people who do not know who he is?
So Kuda, proud African, born and bred in Botswana in a tiny village called Ramutswa. It's about 30 km away from the capital, Gaborone, to Zimbabwean parents. They moved there in the 80s with my brother there about 1 year. I spent my primary schooling years in Botswana before being shipped off to Grahamstown for boarding school. Spent 5 years in Grahamstown boarding. Once I finished, I came down to Joburg to Wits, studied philosophy and international relations at Wits, graduated there, and then went off to Tux. To study law, which I thought was going to be my calling, and from day one I just was
it a missed call or a wrong number? It
was the wrong number.
Okay,
it was a police call.
It was not a passion. So I muscled it out for as long as I could, and then I just pulled the plug on it. Went into work. I worked as in corporate governance. I knew that business was something that I really wanted to get into, and the easiest way for me to get into that framework, into that environment, was to kind of learn as much as I could.
Yeah. And
working in corporate governance was basically like a personal MBA, because you're literally like behind the curtain of some of the largest entities in the country. These are organizations that operate across the country that have massive budgets of hundreds of millions of rands. So, and you're in the mix there as well. So it was an incredible experience. Yeah, it was basically like 3 years of MBA experience, and then, kind of went into business, which I'm sure we're going to go into a little bit more topic there. But yeah, that's a little bit of a background of me. Zimbabwean, born in Botswana, spent most of my adult life here in South Africa. So I consider myself a Southern African.
You are the most African out of the room of
100%,
Africans here, because you
100%.
have been in almost every country south of Africa. Your blood runs deep, man.
100%.
I will, however, say that my great grandmother was also from Botswana, so maybe there's a familial tie
connection.
there. Maybe there's a familial tie. I don't know, but you say your parents are from Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
so maybe not. But anyway, that is Kuda.
Yes.
So Kuda, what is your favorite season of the year?
Summer. I'm definitely a summer body. Botswana has summer and then summer light.
Okay.
I mean,
so there's no
that's-
winter, autumn.
No.
Oh,
There's no
man.
such thing. This Joburg winters are they're a shock to the system. I will say Grahamstown is tough because it's literally in a valley in the Eastern Cape, which is already a cold province.
Yes.
It kind of snows in a lot of regions there, and so a lot of cold air kind of collects in that valley in Grahamstown. So my first 2 years there were brutal.
I hope you
Brutal,
didn't own
brutal.
All Stars during
No.
the winter, because
Yeah.
those ones, the
Thick
toes,
socks,
like
thick socks.
All Stars is like zinc. When it's hot, your feet is hot. When
Yeah.
it's cold, your feet is cold.
yeah, it just attracts whatever element is there, right?
Yeah.
So you say Grahamstown.
Grahamstown.
You were a boarder.
A border in Grahamstown.
Oh my
The
gosh, how was that
quietest-
experience?
Grahamstown it depends on why you're there.
Okay.
It's an academic town.
Yes.
Academic city.
Yes.
There's the Rose University there. But beyond that, there's not that much to do. There isn't even a McDonald's there. You know what I mean? So
Still.
if you know any rodents, you know that there's a party. It's a party vibe. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like that is what the fun is. But it is, like academics is the number one priority in that town. And then, you gotta that's the way you let
make your
your
own
head down.
fun.
Exactly. There's like 2 bars that everyone goes to, that
Nice.
everyone knows, and you always see the same faces and stuff like that. So it was fun. It was nice for boarding school. When it came for varsity, I remember filling out my forms for the roads form, and I got to the last page, and it's like, I was like 2 essays that I had to write, and I had another like 5 forms to fill in. I was just like, you know what? I'm not even going to come back to the roads. You know, I'm done with Grahamstown. I didn't even finish the application form. I was just like, next
be continued.
Exactly. Next form. I was like, I'm not even. I can't do another like 4 years.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, I've had my fun here. Let me go to an actual city where there are actual people
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
And
that's
what was your
brought me to
experience
Joburg.
like coming back to the city?
So-
Was it a big adjustment for you, or how did you handle that?
It was. I will say that. Literally, I finished university finished high school, and I had a couple of options in terms of what I could have gone to Cape Town, but I knew that I was going to be living in Joburg,
Okay.
and I was new here to the city, so I was like, you know what? Let me go to Vids. Let me establish a base here, because like I didn't know anyone. I've got like a couple cousins and stuff like that, but otherwise like no one, and I didn't know anyone. So I was like, the perfect way to acclimatize to the city is to go to university here. And so like some of my closest friends now, even to this day, like are people that I met like in my first couple of weeks there in varsity and stuff like that. So definitely don't regret that decision at all.
Cool. We've got we had an intern from Namibia. So it's just Africa congregating here this morning, man.
Love it,
So
love
we had an intern from Namibia. You just missed her. Her name is Michaela Hansen, and she's in the comment section. She's saying, "Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning. Sending love to you over there in Namibia. You are back now. But thank you so much for tuning in. So tell us, Kuda, when it comes to, because we're talking money here, let's not even let's not even beat around the bush, man. When we talk business, we talk money, right?
100%.
People are trying to make it seem like business is about, it's definitely for the people. But at the end of the day, you cannot
wanna
serve
be
the
profitable.
people. You cannot serve the people if you don't have money. So how do you view philosophy? You are a philosopher. You are a philosopher. But what is your philosophy on money? Just like one-liner, or a sentence, or a thought that you have when you view money.
Necessity.
Okay.
You know what I mean? No matter how you cut it, we don't live in a utopian village, where you need it. It's a lifeblood, you know what I mean? So you can't, no matter what, it governs majority of our lives. Most of what we do from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep is governed by money. You know what I mean? So it's something that you can't kind of sweep under the rug or act like you're not interested, because at the end of the day, it does govern a large part of our lives. And so the more you understand about it, the more you can kind of the more you understand about money, the better you are in a situation to kind of control the rest of your life. You know what I mean? It's not something that you can kind of sweep under the rug. So rather have control of it and don't allow it to control you. And the easiest way to kind of be in control of your money is by owning your labor. Your labor, your time, that's what you put into the marketplace, and then the marketplace rewards your labor with capital, with money. And the more control that you have over your labor, the more control you have over your time. Entrepreneurship is taking full control of your labor, of your time, and saying, this is the work that I'm going to put into the marketplace. And then the marketplace will determine what value it's going to give onto your capital. You know what I mean? There's, when you have a degree, when you have your professional work and you go into the office, you're providing that labor to an organization. You know what I mean? And the organization is saying that, this is the compensation that we're willing to give you for the labor that you're putting in, and they create value through that organization, through a group of people creating that value. So I wouldn't say that entrepreneurship is the only way. You know what I mean? In fact, I generally don't recommend entrepreneurship for the broad. It's not for everyone. 100% it's not for everyone. It's a huge sacrifice. It's a lot of work, a lot more than people would think from the outside. You know what I mean? So I'm not someone who's quit your job. It has to be something greater. There must be like a larger calling. You know what I mean? In fact, business, you need to be solving a problem first. That needs to be the point of call. If you're someone who's going around saying that, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be business, you're already starting off on the wrong foot. You know what I mean? Because you need to have something that you need to get out into the world, because there's so much work, there's so much sacrifice that goes into building an organization, that if you're thinking that you're just going to come in and start up, cash in, bro down, you're in for a very tough time. You're in for a very tough time. So it has to come from something deeper. But at the end of the day, it is the best way to kind of take control of your labor and your money and your capital in general.
Cheers, do you have anything that you want to
just on that, I think you need to know how to take failure. That's the main thing, because obviously when you start off, you're going to be failing a lot. You're going to be failing a lot. It's not going to work like you just mentioned. It's not going to work out the same time. A lot of people come with that la-di-da. Okay, I'm going to start this. Oh my word, I'm going to be a millionaire at the end of the month. It doesn't work like that.
There's a very predictable curve. You know what I mean? There's the initial excitement. There's the wave of, I've got this brilliant idea and I want to tell everyone about it. And it's, endorphins shoot up. And then reality, the reality hits and it's like, wow, this is a lot more work than I thought. You know what I mean? There's a lot more friction in the market. There's, and at the end of the day, it is a competitive space. You know what I mean? It's very competitive. This is people's livelihoods. You know what I mean? So you need to be mindful of that when you're walking into spaces. Don't think that you're just going to come in and people are going to be like, it's not lovey-dovey. But at the end of the day, like, the more you are able to kind of cooperate and work with other people, the better it is for you, because you're creating value and you're increasing the space. You know what I mean? That's ultimately, if you're in a space where you're kind of increasing the value of that market, always go into a market or into a space where you say that, okay, I can go into the space and I can add value to this environment. There's an issue here. There's a problem I've identified. And, the market is not serving the demand as best as I can see. You know what I mean? And I've got a unique solution to the market that I can bring to and that will add value. You know what I mean? So it's not about, people want to talk about, especially in business, disruption. It's not necessarily about disruption. It's about adding value to the space. If you're coming into the space and you're improving the environment and you're adding space and you're adding new novel solutions that people are going to connect with and vibe with, then you're in the right space. You know what I mean? That's why you need to have in-depth knowledge of the environment that you're working into or that you're going into, because you need to be able to identify where the faults are.
Yeah.
And you can only do that if you have a deep knowledge of your space, of your industry, of your environment. And that differs not just across industries, but also across geographies. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because, you know, for example, healthcare in America, they have different challenges to healthcare in Nigeria, to South Africa, to, you know, China. So just because you've identified a problem with South African healthcare doesn't necessarily mean that it's the same problem that Kenyan healthcare has or Chinese healthcare has, you know what I mean? So problems are very like geography specific and industry specific. So keeping an eye out is, well, my advice, if I was to give advice to someone who's looking to get into entrepreneurship or get into business, especially on the African continent, is get intimate with your industry. Like, know your industry like the back of your hand.
Okay.
Yes.
The more you know your industry, the more you can kind of say, okay, nah, this is not working well. Why is it not working well? Because there might be a reason, there might be, you know, regulation that prevents, you know, these certain types of improvements. And you're like, okay, that's fine. Or there might just be incumbents that have a method of doing things, they've been doing it for 30, 40 years, and everyone in the industry just accepts that this is how it's done.
Yeah.
That's the best opportunity, because incumbents are slow to change. They've been doing it and they've, you know, this is how we do it.
Yeah.
Those are the best opportunities, identifying where incumbents are using legacy institutions or running inefficiently, serving a market that is not satisfied with the current solution, but they accept it just because that's the way things are.
Yes.
So those are always the best opportunities, and you need to be in the industry to be able to identify where those friction points are. So that's my advice for anyone that's kind of looking to get into the space, is that identify those friction points and then add your varnish and shine over them.
And on that, I think the most important is to go into the industry you actually enjoy it. Something you enjoy doing, because a lot of the time you'll go into an industry, like you mentioned, you have to do research, your geography, all that. If you go into something that you don't enjoy doing, you're just going to end up leaving it on the side, because you're like, okay, there's so much put into it, but the industry that I'm actually going into, I don't enjoy doing this. So obviously you have to go into something that you enjoy, that you're willing to research. When you research something, you actually get excited about it. You're like, okay,
Yes.
I didn't know this is something new, but yeah.
And like you guys mentioned, you know, it consumes most of your life. Entrepreneurship consumes most of your life. So if you are spending your time on something, if you are spending most of your time on something that you do not enjoy, it's going to be a failure, and you're going to bleed on your organization, on your business, if that's the case. But you mentioned something very profound, and I want to just stay on that for a moment before we go into your business, right? And you were speaking about you alluded to, if the solutions that's in America is not the same as in South Africa compared to, and I'm talking America as a continent, North America as a continent, right? And then you've got Africa as a continent with many different countries within Africa. There's 52 countries in Africa,
And growing.
and a lot of the times what happens is, I used to attend these marketing conferences when I worked as an editor, and we used to do case studies on international companies that come to the continent and then they want to expand, or even like when you were an entrepreneur in South Africa and you want to expand to the rest of Africa. And then what you find is that the business fails there because of that thing that you mentioned. You have not identified the need of that industry or that that country or community, right? So how do you first, and my question is twofold. Firstly, what is, as in a general light, and if I can generalize, you must correct me if I'm wrong, because my question is generally, what are Africans' relationship with money? Because the reason why I ask this question is because you'll be able to understand your consumer better if you understand their relationship with money, because we're talking about money. And then how do businesses who want to expand to the rest of Africa meet those consumers there where their necessity, where the style of their necessity is, if it makes sense?
That's a very, very good question. And so what's unique about the African continent is that a lot of our economies are still maturing.
Okay.
They're still very, very immature. South Africa is probably the most industrialized country on the continent. You know what I mean? We've got about 76% mobile penetration in South Africa. Nigeria, which is the largest by population, and I think third in terms of GDP on the continent. I might be wrong about that. I think it's second or third with Egypt, South Africa. They're always kind of changing places. Nigeria, which is, largest population, more than 100 million, only has about 36% mobile penetration. You know what I mean? So so obviously solutions that exist in America, like it's this tech and all of that stuff, these tech booms, stuff like, that is obviously like there's a disconnect between what will work in America and what will work in Nigeria. And Nigeria is one on the higher end, with that 36% mobile penetration. You know what I mean? So you need to be kind of mindful of all of those kind of variations or variables and changes. In terms of how we view money on the continent, like I'm saying, a lot of industries are still immature.
Yes.
A lot of entrepreneurship is almost second nature to a lot of African countries, a lot of African citizens, because I think most people recognize that there's no expectation on the government. You know what I mean? In most African countries, there's very little expectation on the government. People aren't waiting for the government to give them this and that. You've got people that have got 4-year degrees, that have got honors and master's degrees that have got spaza shops by the side of the road.
That's so
you know what I
true.
mean? And that is what they're using to fund their education. So there's a lot more entrepreneurship across the continent. And, that's a kind of a double-edged sword, because it's easier to create massive growth at massive scale through these large corporations. You see these companies, Facebook, that become billion-dollar companies in like 5-8 years, and you do that through these massive organizations that are aligned towards a specific target or a specific goal. You know what I mean? Even nations. China operates like a large corporation. They've got the Chinese Communist Party, and Xi Jinping is like the head of this organization, and the entire nation is aligned towards this goal of these 5-year plans, and they just work like a juggernaut. Whereas Africa is just like this. It's number one, it's the biggest continent on the planet. Like we're saying, 54 countries, might be 55 now, you know what I mean? And all of these multiple cultures and multiple tribes. In Nigeria, it's more than 100 different tribes. South Africa has, 13 or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So it's much harder to kind of align people towards massive or large goals or these huge projects than it is in countries like America, like we're saying in North America, where you have a common culture. You can talk about Republicans and Democrats, but at the end of the day, everyone identifies as American. You've got 250 million, 300 million people who identify this nation. At the end of the day, if there's a war, they're all Americans. They're all going to pull up the American flag. If Libya gets bombed, you know what I mean? We're all going to be watching, howdy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's not that same connection that we have across the continent. So I think most of the work for the 21st century is kind of linking our economies together, because once we kind of have a common market on the African continent, it makes it a lot easier for people to trade. That person who's got their spaza shop there at their master's degree and their spaza shop can only service a small community that operates within their environment.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But once we have a common environment, and that takes maturing, as like there's the free trade agreement that's recently taken effect. I think it was about 2021, which allows for free trade across the continent. These things take time. You know what I mean? And it's going to take a long time for, number one, the logistics. Like, how many amazing roads do we have where it makes sense to import bananas from, Angola and bring them here? The roads aren't good enough for us to be importing. It's cheaper for someone in the Netherlands to send a container ship all the way from the Netherlands here to South Africa than it is to get a bus from Angola here to South Africa. So these are the kind of problems that we have on the African continent, is kind of linking the continent together, number one, through communication, through logistics, and then just through culture as well. You know what I mean? Like, these are massive challenges, but not insurmountable. So I'd say that's the biggest difference, is that it's a lot more dispersed, and it's not necessarily as mature as other markets, but that is time. That's that's the big work of the 21st century, is maturing those markets and kind of bringing them on that standard and kind of getting mobile and digital penetration across the continent.
Okay. So based on that, what is your relationship with entrepreneurship? Can you just like give us a brief synopsis of the journey?
Yeah, so you have these guys and they're like, oh, it's selling sweets and sixes. I wouldn't say that, I'm an innate entrepreneur. I'd say that the problem found me and then entrepreneurship followed. You know what I mean? Like, I've got one use case of my entrepreneur, like when we were in school. So we were only allowed to go to town on one day of the week. It was only on Wednesdays. This is a fun little anecdote of my entrepreneurial debut. So you could only go to town like one day of the week.
I wish
you know
we had the cinematic music right now.
Just dim the
Dim the
lights.
lights.
Yeah, and it was literally like a 20-minute walk to town. You know what I mean? You had to like walk to town, and you had to walk in groups and stuff like that, and it could only be on a Wednesday and stuff like that. And there were like one or two like barber shops as well. You know what I mean? So a friend of mine decided that we were going to start a barber shop in the boarding house, and so we would literally like cut people's hair instead of them having to go all the way to town. They would just come to the boarding house. We'd go into one of the boarding bathrooms and just boom, boom. The problem is we were terrible at cutting hair. And we lost interest pretty quickly. So that was like my entrepreneurial debut. But yeah, so I wouldn't say that I'm innately like born entrepreneur. And there's very few cases where like someone is just innately an entrepreneur. Like I think the problem needs to be the main focus.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You need to be like, okay, I have this thing that I need to get out into the world, or that I want to like kind of like build on and stuff like that. And then your learnings of how to do that kind of follow that. You know what I mean? So like, okay, I want to do this. How do I do this? Where do I source? And then the kind of connections and your learnings kind of follow the problem that you're looking to solve. So I'd always say that let's look at what problems exist in the environment. And Africa is a continent full of problems. Yeah. That's why entrepreneurship flourishes across the continent. You know what I mean? Because anywhere you turn, there's problems, and there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be more efficient ways of doing things. So I think that it's always better, instead of like trying to be the next this or the next Zach or the next, rather let's try find problems that we want to solve or that we want to kind of resolve for society, and then the learnings of how to do that will kind of follow, and you can kind of take it from there.
Do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
So on that note of problem solving, what problem did you identify in order to give birth to Greenpool Health? So we mentioning Greenpool Health for those of you who tuned in for the very first time. So I think that you first need to explain to us what Greenpool Health is and how it came about. So I do have a little media element there of Greenpool Health. So basically this is on your website. And so tell us.
Greenpool.co.za, bookmark it, sign up to our waiting list and be notified of any benefits. Yeah, so it's been an evolutionary process, Greenpool. So I'm someone who's naturally health conscious. Greenpool is a health tech platform that makes it simple and easy for users to adopt and maintain a healthy lifestyle. So someone who I've been sporty, I'm a self-proclaimed athlete, you know what I mean? So it's something that comes natural to me is being health conscious. I've been gymming since I was 15, nutrition, and you very quickly learn the connection between nutrition and performance. Yeah. When you're always, on the sports field and stuff like that, you realize if you have a terrible meal, the night before, it shows. So the connection between your nutrition and your health is just something that almost all athletes kind of understand very basically. And, Greenpool Health kind of evolved from my understanding of nutrition. My mom is someone who has struggled with her health almost all of her life, you know what I mean? And I think it was in 2016. Like that was she was having issues. She was diagnosed as being pre-diabetic. You know what I mean? And that kind of was the trigger point for me. Like me, I was at the time I was a law school student, and I'm thinking like, you know what? I know what you should be eating.
Yeah.
Like, if only you could just give me your grocery money and I would just like sort you out. And, you know, that was like, as a broke student, you know, I'm thinking like, just give me your grocery money. I'll sort it out for you. You know what I mean? And I was like, you know what? That's actually like a decent business idea, because how many people, South Africa, the second largest killer of South Africans is type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
This is, you know, probably the biggest problem of the 21st century. Like about 450 million people across the world are suffering from type 2 diabetes. So it is one of the biggest issues of our society right now. And the issue stems from nutrition.
Sure.
You can throw as many pills as you want at it. You can, you know, tell people to run and gym and throw it as much as they want. But at the end of the day, it's a metabolic issue. It's an issue with the way your body is processing and dealing with the sugars that you consume. So the best way to re-regulate your metabolic system is to kind of cut out, number one, processed goods and excess sugars from your diet. And that way you can kind of restore your metabolic balance.
Okay.
So that was the issue, and that was the solution. So I thought, how can we do this at scale? And then from that idea is where we kind of birthed KetoCart. The original idea was around KetoCart, was providing users with a set program of ketogenic meals. It was 10 ketogenic meals delivered to you for the week, 2 meals a day, and we were doing that at scale. So it was born out of that. It was about 4 of us. One was a dietitian, my co-founder Tam is a dietitian, Cleo's an accountant, and then Darren is a software engineer. So the 4 of us kind of came together to kind of bring the solution together at scale. And so we're operating that business for about 3 years. And then we kind of reached an inflection point beginning of last year, in which, you know, we ran a campaign and, you know, our user base grew to the point that we weren't able to kind of service them at that point. And
Supply and demand didn't
exactly,
match
yeah, we exceeded our capacities to supply our user base. And so we had to put pause to our operations and stuff like that. But in that process, we realized that, you know what, for us to grow more organically, it's better for us to create an ecosystem, an environment where all of these services are contained in one environment, in which, you know, our user base can not just get their meals sorted, they can speak to the appropriate health professional that can give them the advice. That health professional can send them off to specific personal trainers or GPs, or, you know, like they have an ecosystem where all of their health and wellness needs can be served on one simple and convenient platform. And so that was what kind of birthed Greenpool. It was birthed out of the ashes of KetoCart. You know what I mean? We were like, okay, no, let's take this one idea and then create more value, as I was saying, to create more value for our user base and our consumer base, so that, you know, we can improve on our service, on our value that we provide to society. And so we've kind of split it into 3 parts. There's the health professionals platform, which includes various categories of health professionals that users can book through the platform. There's the meal kits, which includes the KetoCart, which is prepackaged meal kits that are delivered to your door for each meal of the weekday, Monday to Friday. And then there's a health matrix, which includes auxiliary services that relate to health and wellness. So that was kind of what birthed Ketogen. It's a focus on ensuring that we can supply, or users can find, one simple and convenient platform to serve all of their health and wellness needs. And that was me identifying, like, directly my mom, number one, struggling with the issue, and then broader society as well, saying that, you know, she's not the only one that has this problem. This is a societal and not just local here to South Africa. It has global scale as well, because, you know, it's one of the biggest problems of the 21st century. More people die from diabetes than die from poverty nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's only going to continue because it's a lifestyle disease. You know what I mean? And our lifestyles have been wrecked by modern diets, by modern culture. We are a lot more sedentary than we were 100 years ago. You know, everything is delivered to us. So you need to kind of incentivize healthy behavior. Otherwise, the baseline is not to. You know what I mean? We go to work, we come back home, put on Netflix, we order a meal. Like, the baseline is not health. You know what I mean? It's so easy for us to live a sedentary, unhealthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
So what our approach is, like, how can we make it as easy to live a healthy lifestyle? And so that is our driving force, is making it as intuitive, as second nature to live a healthy lifestyle as it is to live an unhealthy lifestyle right now in society.
So just explain to us, like, because it's obviously a holistic health solution, right, that you are creating, but you're also creating an ecosystem for healthcare professionals in order for them to network, and then also then for the end user, which is going to be the potential customer. But how does it work? So, for instance, let me just paint a picture for you. If I need to go and see a GP, right? So I go to the GP and my general practitioner says to me, does some tests and finds out, okay, you are pre-diabetic, for instance, like with your mom's case. Then does my GP within the ecosystem put me in contact with a nutritionist, dietitian, but also, because it's not just about eating healthy, you also have to, you know, keep the body working, moving, you know, then puts me into contact with a personal trainer, puts me into contact with, you know, the ecosystem, and then you have KetoCard. If that happens, right, it becomes costly. How do you then negate the customer from taking on all these expenses? Is there a solution that you have identified in order to address that?
So the first thing to identify is, or to note, is that GPs won't generally recommend a specific health professional.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So they will recommend that you do A, B, or that you take
They
A,
will
B,
give you
C
the
steps.
prescriptions.
Okay.
Exactly. They'll give you They'll give you the prescription, take A, B, C steps. So let's say you're someone who's suffering with type 2 diabetes. You visit your GP, he says, okay, you need to adjust your diet. Here's a baseline that you can work on. If you want to a more in-depth solution, you are recommended to see a dietitian who has more in-depth knowledge about that. You know what I mean? And then it's your kind of prerogative to kind of see a dietitian. You know? So what we've kind of created is an ecosystem where we can sort of bundle those services together.
Okay.
We've got these 12 categories at the moment of various health professionals. And yes, you can book each individual one by one. So the value proposition for the health professionals is this: number one, most GPs, most dietitians, most dentists, orthodontists, they operate within their own little silos. So if you've identified, you'll have your dental practice in the basement of some shopping mall, and it's very tough for them
Why
to kind of.
Why does that sound so real?
Right? We've all seen it.
It's always the basement.
Yeah, there's the print shop, and then there's the dental. You know what I mean? They're right next to each other. We've seen them, you know what I mean? So it's very difficult for them to kind of grow their user base there in the basement of some shopping mall. So we increase visibility or market access for these various health professionals. We say, here's a platform you can showcase at no additional cost or additional upfront cost to the health professionals. You showcase your services here so that users can find some easy way to get in touch and to get your services. So that's the value proposition for the health professionals, is a very simple way to grow your practice, showcase your platform here in our ecosystem. For the user, because we have these health professionals within our ecosystem, we can kind of bundle services as well. So that we say that, okay, someone who's suffering with type 2 diabetes will most probably need these various services. and over this specific period of time. You know what I mean? So if you're going to need a range of services, we can say that, okay, in order for you to get these services, we can offer a certain price range. You know what I mean? If you know what the health professionals that you're going to be seeing is, we can bundle those services and say, here's a package, you get your GP, you get your dietitian, and then you get your meal kits, and then all other supplements and services. If you want to increase your fitness and stuff like that, here's a program with these professionals, these boxing and yoga instructors and stuff like that. So there's variability in the choice that we offer them, but the value proposition is that we can offer it at a lower price because we bundle these services together, and users can have them on one simple and convenient platform. So it's the ecosystem is what allows us to kind of bring the costs down, because we not dependent on one individual service.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And the second thing is that we can determine demand as well. So when we can, it's not necessarily like surging, but we know what, or through the platform or through bookings, we know what is in demand.
Yes.
So that also kind of allows us to work with pricing and stuff like that to see what services are more in demand. We can be more variable with our pricing, and that is also a value to the users at the end of the day, because more in demand services can actually be more ubiquitous to the rest of the user base as well.
And you know what I noticed, like especially like I said, you working in the marketing space, and that time when I used to go to Marketing Mix and, you know, sit in these conferences, is that a lot of the times we undermine the consumer, businesses undermine the end user. We look at LSMs, for instance, and, you know, that becomes our target. No, we only targeting an elite group of people because they're the ones with the money. What you will find out on lower LSMs are those are the ones that actually utilize the services. So what advice do you give to people who are saying, especially people who are skeptical about starting businesses during this time, when we are sitting with a global economic crisis, we have all these issues, economic pressure mounts on the end user, because we are the ones that are shouldering the burden of a crashing economy, and people who are skeptical, that's saying, hey, but you know, there's no money out there, people don't have extra money to spend on healthcare. You know what I'm saying? People who have medical aids, who work within a network, that's probably not going to be your target audience. But there's many people in South Africa who do not have medical aids, many people who have forgone on their medical aids because they've got other pressing issues that they need to deal with. But how do you answer that when people are skeptical about it, and there's the naysayers that
They say never let a good crisis go to waste. You know what I mean? So yes, there are challenges, but in every challenge there's opportunity. Like you're saying, is that it doesn't or your health becomes secondary, or it becomes a secondary demand until until you kind of in a crisis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for us, being able to serve, or just being able, or being available to all, you know what I mean? We're not necessarily restricted to, so Discovery users can use the ecosystem, but no one else outside of the ecosystem has access to their services. You know what I mean? The same applies to Momentum and stuff like that. So yes, there are people that have, there's certain tiers of healthcare and stuff like that. But here's a direct way to access these health services without necessarily having to make that commitment upfront initially, being a service to, you know, a health. You're making your regular payments, and at the end of the day, you're not really certain about, you know, when you're going to need them. You're kind of subsidizing the rest of the market, especially if you're someone who's young, who doesn't have any sort of pressing market. At some point, you have to, that's a value cost, and a lot of people are choosing not to make that value cost. So it's like, okay, if you've made that sacrifice, how can you still have access to these services without, you know, putting yourself or your family and everyone around your system at jeopardy of a crisis? You know what I mean? So it's a form it's a way of meeting users where they are. You know what I mean? You don't have to have a policy to sign up to our services. You don't have to have A, B, C. You know what I mean? We're kind of an entry point, and we see ourselves as an aid to the ecosystem.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You know, even if you do have medical aid, we do have compatibility for medical aid users who can make their bookings through the platform, and they get medical aid pricing as well and stuff like that. So we do service them, but it is an entry point for people that don't necessarily want to make that commitment or have cut off from that commitment in the short term. And then we still allow them to access those services. And these are premium services at at reasonable pricing, you know what I mean? So it allows people to still kind of keep one hand on, their health and wellness, knowing that, okay, if something does happen, I still have this platform that can kind of help me and service me without having to make the further commitment of subscribing to an official healthcare provider. But I wouldn't recommend, I would suggest that you kind of stay with your policy because, crises do happen, you know what I mean? So it's not something that I'd recommend that you can, but we do service those people that are kind of in that midway and people that are also on medical aid services.
And I mean, a lot of the medical aid services don't necessarily have things like MMA, boxing, personal trainers, and which you guys offer, yoga instructors. Yeah. It's not something that you're going to find that's part of your medical aid, but that's one of the services that you offer.
Exactly.
Even hiking, you guys have a hiking on there. I was looking at this, I'm like, okay, wait. There's a healthcare professional known as hiking. So explain that a bit to us, because that is one of...
It's the trails. So there's various trails across South Africa that users will be able to book a full suite of services. You know what I mean? From not just the trail, but let's say if you need accommodation and stuff like that. So we have a pricing algorithm that allows users to kind of be specific about what they want. Okay. If you want a weekend away and a trail and you want to get a log cabin, then that is something that's compatible. If you just want to find a trail, it helps you kind of discover various trails and stuff like that. I recently went on a hike in Cradle Moon. Beautiful place. A lot of people don't know that these places exist. You know what I mean? And, there are many of them across, not just Gauteng, but across South Africa. You know what I mean? So it's also helping people kind of discover all of these healthy activities, because not everyone wants to go into a gym and push weight and you know what I mean? There's various ways to keep healthy. It's not necessarily just being in a gym, putting weight. If you're someone who's, wants something a little bit slow, then yoga is kind of for you. If you're someone who's a little more active, wants something a bit more physical, MMA, boxing is more for your speed. If you want to be in nature, if you want to be out in the environment, then obviously the hike is something for you. So it's about providing easy ways to adopt a healthy lifestyle that are built around your innate interests and stuff like that. So we're not imposing sessions. We're not telling you to go and see a personal trainer who's going to be yelling at you. If that's not you, that's not you. You know what I mean? You're going to do it for 2 days and then you're never going to come back. You know what I mean? Whereas someone who likes yoga, you wouldn't have known before, now you found yoga, and now this just becomes a natural part of your life. So I think the biggest thing is kind of discovery. Is a lot of people like, wow, I didn't know that these people exist, or I didn't know that we could do this, or I didn't know it was so easy for me to find a gym instructor or, a yoga instructor or MMA, you know what I mean? So it's increasing the ease of discovery of these various services and then making it simple for people to adopt these practices without having to go through this whole entire discovery process. You have one simple platform. It's like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? It's like, pick your journey. Yes. That's the kind of idea or concept around the platform.
Okay. So the website is still not under construction, but you are launching soon.
Yes, we're launching. We're finalizing partnerships and agreements with the various suppliers and the various providers. The platform will be available or live in June.
Okay,
and
cool.
then users. But you can visit the website now. It's live, www.greenpool.co.za. You'll see a pop-up there for the waitlist. You can sign up to the waitlist. You can log in and create your profile in the meantime, and then we'll be giving you notifications about any specials and any sort of deals that we have around launch, and then you'll also have information about official launch dates and be at the front of the line.
And there's a trend going on. I even see it with like GPs and, it's not really a trend. It's not new, but there's a lot of independence. I mean, obviously, like with your personal trainers and your, nutritionists, even chiropractors and guys that work in that space. They are independent. They're not affiliated with a specific medical center or whatever the case may be. And that would then also be your target audience.
Exactly.
So appealing to, anybody can sign up. If you're a healthcare professional, there's obviously a form that you can fill out right now. So if you know of anybody, for those of you who are watching, or if you are a healthcare professional, there's 12 categories, like Kuda mentioned, on the site. You can go in and you can see what those categories are. And if you are a healthcare professional, you know somebody who is especially independent. A lot of the guys are unemployed. They don't belong to a specific gym, or they don't belong to a specific healthcare institution, like I said to you. And now they're sitting at home and they're not sure what to do. So send a shout out to those guys, or send the link to them and let them, fill out the form. Be part of this movement.
Yeah. So if you go to the landing page, or if you go to our homepage and you click on the tab for the Health Professionals app, it'll direct you to our form, which allows you to fill in the form, complete your application, and then we have a 48-hour verification process.
Yes.
That's just confirming the information that you provided, as well as the additional information that you need to provide. It's a very simple process, and the form takes about 2 to 3 minutes to provide. What we do as a platform is we take a certain percentage off of each transaction.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We work very similar to the Ubers, the Airbnbs, very similar to all other platform organizations. These guys usually take about 30%, stuff like that. We only take about 10% off of each transaction. And so that's other. Alternatively, you can click on the Health Professionals tab. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see another tab that allows you to register there. So if you're someone who's within those 12 categories, or you're someone who's looking for someone in those 12 categories, it's a very simple process to get signed up. If you've got a private practice, like I'm saying, you're operating on the 3rd floor of the basement, sign up to our platform. We increase your market access. You'll be able to grow your practice without any sort of labor or any sort of practice. It's a very effortless process. If you're a consumer who's looking to adopt a healthy lifestyle and looking for all of these various categories, boom, you've got one platform that does it all. So that's the kind of value proposition to both ends.
Okay.
Awesome. Sounds exciting. We will sign up, Jess. We have to sign up.
Yeah,
if we don't sign up, it's not loyalty, bro. Kuda was on our show.
You have to.
So we have to sign up for that. Obviously, we are not healthcare professionals.
No way.
I mean, we like you massage your wife now and then, but I don't think that would
I
qualify as a
yeah.
masseuse.
Yeah,
I do think if she's watching, she will be like, I think we need a professional. You've been doing great, but maybe we should.
I'm not that bad.
Go on to Greenpool Health. Go and book a masseuse.
Let's get some stronger hands.
But then again, if that's not the option, what you can do is you can get a personal trainer on Greenpool Health. Get stronger hands. And you're saving money. You're saving money.
I see.
It's also like a value added. Because where will that go? You never know. But no, maybe not soon, because he's a father, not a new father. They've got a son, but they recently had their other baby. Yes. So he is a new second
father. Sleepless nights, all of the good stuff. That's amazing.
A new father of a second born.
Congrats.
There we go.
Congrats.
Thanks.
So we have reached the end of our show. I cannot believe an hour has gone by so fast. It just goes to show there's so much to share. There's so much insights to give to the people out there who is watching. And there's not enough time for that.
No,
so
you guys got to have me back sometime. This was fun.
We have to.
Definitely
we have to. Maybe next time we can do something a little more practical.
Once we're live, exactly, I can bring some demonstrations and you guys can have a little bit more fun with the platform.
We can hike around here.
There's a trail. There's a trail. Okay. See, I'm very interested in that hiking one. I enjoy hiking. I don't do it often, but I do it.
I did it this weekend. Best thing.
Yes.
Best thing I've done
you
in a while.
You were saying Cradle Moon, right?
Cradle Moon.
I love
gorgeous,
Cradle Moon.
Gorgeous.
We also did a trail at Cradle Moon, and it was a 5K though.
Yes, I also did the 5K.
We didn't go for the extreme.
The full 5K.
You can level up.
Most of the ladies, I must say, were looking forward to the breakfast afterwards. So that's the reason they were like, no, let's do do the 5K.
We all go for different reasons, but we get the same results.
But the last hike that I went on was actually with my cousin and a couple of her friends. Where did we go to? What was that place called? Ver Genoeg. It was Ver Genoeg, but
Far
it was
enough.
yo.
steep.
Yo, I'm telling you, I was sore for like 10 days afterwards. You see, now if Greenpool Health, I knew about it earlier, you know, book the masseuse. Because
straight from the hiking
straight
trail
from the hike
onto the masseuse's table.
be like, girl, do best. Because it was intense. But I enjoy it. I really do.
Yeah.
Staying fit.
And listen, we've got one of the most beautiful continents on the planet. You know, there's so much lush, so much animal. You know what I mean? We have to take advantage of that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, how many places in the world can you just like walk around and stroke zebras and, you know, gazelles and stuff like that? There's not many places in the world that you can do that. You know, so
I mean, we
need
even
to take
stroke
advantage.
sharks and dolphins
You know
here
what
in
I mean?
Africa.
You know what I mean?
You know, we play with lions, pets, and stuff like that to our Western viewers. Yeah, we do. We have them as pets.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Kuda, for
been my
availing your
pleasure.
time
It's
to
been
be
my
on here and to share your valuable insights. In fact, I think it's invaluable. There's no value that we can attach to it because these are things that, as African entrepreneurs, we do struggle with. You know, breaking. Jess and I had a conversation yesterday, and it's like you have these bright ideas, but that's another question that I actually want to ask you before we go. So you have this bright idea, right? And you like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. I identify the need. And I do believe, I identify the problem and I believe I've got the solution, but I don't have the capital. What advice do you give to an entrepreneur like that?
That's a great question. So find out the smallest scale that you can test your solution. You know what I mean? It doesn't require you to create a large organization or throw in huge amounts of capital to kind of test it. So number one, like for example, let me give you the keto cards case study. It's as simple as, can I prepare 10 meals that can sustain from Monday to Friday?
Okay.
Figure out, number one, can the tech work?
Yes.
If I put this together, will the tech be compatible? Number two, is there an actual demand? Is this a real problem that I'm solving and not just something that I want to, you know what I mean? It's not like your 5-year-old's, you know, rock guitar. It's a real thing that the consumers want. So the second thing is finding out if this is a real problem. So if you can create the tech, put it in front of people and see how they react to that. And then get feedback. But do it at small, you don't have to do it at a small scale as possible. And then once you get those validations, that's when you can start building on your process. Don't try to shoot from the moon from day one. Just because your solution from day one will not be the final solution that you kind of scale up. You know what I mean? Even us, we're still going through an iterative process. And then once we've figured out all of the kinks and stuff like that, that's when we can kind of scale up our operations and, you know, grow the ecosystem and stuff like that. But just find the smallest scale that you can kind of get a solution, get it to market as soon as possible, as many, and then just give it to people. Ask them what they think about that. They'll tell you, no, or they'll, you know, and get honest feedback. Don't just give it to your best friend and their wife, you know. Give it to real people that have that real problem, and then get answers from them. They'll tell you, okay, no, can it do this? Can it do that? Can it do that? And then just build on that. Iterate over time. It's an iterative process, and I will say that you have to give yourself a decent time frame as well. Give yourself about 3 to 5 years of iteration. You know what I mean? If you try and shoot from the moon from day one, you will fall flat on your face because you'll never come to the marketplace with the perfect solution from day one. So just figure out the smallest scale that you can solve a problem and then just get it tested, get it out there in the market, and then just work on it from there.
you mentioned something very important. Get it out to market as
Yes.
soon as possible.
Yes.
Because a lot of the times we at the drawing board for 10
Yeah.
years.
No.
We at the drawing board
Yeah.
because we want a perfect
Yeah.
product.
It's never going to be perfect from day one.
Yes.
In fact, there are companies that have been operating for 20 years
still not.
that don't have the perfect solution. You know what I mean? So who are you with limited resources and limited time? And you're not going to be able to come up with the perfect, if people, like these companies still have like terrible reviews 20 years later. You know what I mean? You'll be able to. So don't put that pressure of yourself of coming up with the perfect solution on day one. Just get it to market, learn as much as you can from there, and then
Yes.
just listen. Listen as much as you can, because what you want to do and what you want to provide is not necessarily what the market wants.
Yes.
And they are the most important people, because those are the people that you're going to be serving. So just because you think, oh, no, I wanted to do it this way, if the market tells you, no, we prefer it that way, that's the direction that you need to go.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's always constantly keeping your ear to the ground, listening to what your users are saying, and then implementing their feedback as best as you can.
Kuda, is there any other way that viewers can get in contact with you, specifically with regards to Greenpool?
Yes, I'm on
Health.
almost all of the socials. You can find me on LinkedIn, Kuda Ngulube. If you want a little bit of fun, you can find me on Twitter, where I just mess around a little bit. Kuda Claver is the handle, KUDACLAVER. Same on, so I'd say those are the two places. Find me on LinkedIn, find me on Twitter. We can have conversations and take it from there.
Sure. Thank you so much, guys. Jess, do you have any closing remarks there?
Nah, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. Learned a lot. These things you actually pay for now and then. And it's someone giving it out for free.
For free.
Yeah. So thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate it. All the best with your launch. Looking
you so
forward
much.
to it. We'll definitely register
Yes.
and see where we go from there.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you so
Excellent.
much to those of you who watched. Don't forget, we have Kuda here, the founder and entrepreneur of Greenpool Health. So please do give them a follow. Go on to his website. It's greenpool.co.za, that is. And then, yes, let us make magic. Doing business in Africa. It
Amen.
is a pleasant place to be. We've got the resources. We've got the people. We've got the insights. We are blessed. We are spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
So for those of you who watch, thank you so much. Please do share this link. If you haven't done so already, please like, please subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and then share. Also, do that. Thank you so much, guys. Until next time. Bye.